As fresh springs of thought will frequently break up during preparation in answer to prayer, so will it be in the delivery of the sermon. Most preachers who depend upon God's Spirit will tell you that their freshest and best thoughts are not those which were premeditated, but ideas which came to them, flying as on the wings of angels, unexpected treasures brought on a sudden by celestial hands, seeds of the flowers of paradise, wafted from the mountains of myrrh. Often and often, when I have felt hampered, both in thought and expression, my secret groaning of heart has brought me relief, and I have enjoyed more than usual liberty. But how dare we pray in the battle if we have never cried to the Lord while buckling on the harness? The remembrance of his wrestlings at home comforts the fettered preacher when in the pulpit. God will not desert us unless we have deserted him. You, brethren, will find that prayer will ensure you strength equal to your day. As the tongues of fire came upon the apostles when they sat watching and praying, even so will they come upon you. You will find yourselves, when you might perhaps have flagged, suddenly upborne, as by a seraph's power. Wheels of fire will be fastened to your chariot, which had begun to drag right heavily, and steeds angelic will be in a moment harnessed to your fiery car, till you climb the heavens like Elijah, in a rapture of flaming inspiration. After the sermon, how would a conscientious preacher give vent to his feelings and find solace for his soul if access to the mercy seat were denied him? Elevated to the highest pitch of excitement, how can we relieve our souls but in importunate pleadings? Or depressed by a fear of failure, how shall we be comforted but in moaning out our complaint before God? How often have some of us tossed to and fro upon our couch half the night because of conscious shortcomings in our testimony? How frequently have we longed to rush back to the pulpit again, to say over again more vehemently what we have uttered in so cold a manner? Where should we find rest for our spirits but in confession of sin and passionate entreaty that our infirmity or folly might in no way hinder the Spirit of God? It is not possible in a public assembly to pour out all our heart's love to our flock. Like Joseph, the affectionate minister will seek where to weep. His emotions, however freely he may express himself, will be pent up in the pulpit, and only in private prayer can he draw up the sluices and bid them flow forth. If we cannot prevail with men for God, we will at least endeavour to prevail with God for men. We cannot save them, or even persuade them to be saved, but we can at least bewail their madness and entreat the interference of the Lord. Like Jeremiah, we can make it our resolve. If ye will not hear it, my soul shall weep in secret places for your pride, and mine eye shall weep sore and run down with tears. To such pathetic appeals, the Lord's heart can never be indifferent. In due time, the weeping intercessor will become the rejoicing winner of souls. There is a distinct connection between importunate agonizing and true success, even as between the travail and the birth, the sowing in tears and the reaping in joy. How is it that your seed comes up so soon? Said one gardener to another. Because I steep it, was the reply. We must steep all our teachings in tears, when none but God is nigh, and their growth will surprise and delight us. Could anyone wonder at Brainerd's success when his diary contained such notes as this? Lord's Day, April 25th. This morning spent 2 hours in sacred duties, and was enabled, more than ordinarily, to agonize for immortal souls. Though it was early in the morning, and the sun scarcely shone at all, yet my body was quite wet with sweat. The secret of Luther's power lay in the same direction. Theodorus said of him, "I overheard him in prayer, but, good God, with that life and spirit did he pray. It was with so much reverence, as if he were speaking to God, yet with so much confidence, as if he were speaking to his friend." My brethren, let me beseech you to be men of prayer. Great talents you may never have, but you will do well enough without them if you are bound in intercession. If you do not pray over what you have sown, God's sovereignty may possibly determine to give a blessing, but you have no right to expect it. And if it comes, it will bring no comfort to your own heart. I was reading yesterday a book by Father Faber, late of Oratory at Brompton. A marvellous compound of truth and error. In it he relates a legend to this effect. A certain preacher, whose sermons converted men by scores, received a revelation from heaven that not one of the conversions was owing to his talents or eloquence, but all to the prayers of an illiterate lay brother who sat on the pulpit steps, pleading all the time for the success of the sermon. It may, in the all-revealing day, be so with us. We may discover, after having laboured long and wearily in preaching, that all the honour belongs to another builder, whose prayers were gold, silver, and precious stones, while our sermonizings, being apart from prayer, were but hay and stubble. When we have done with preaching, we shall not, if we are true ministers of God, have done with praying, because the whole church, with many tongues, will be crying, in the language of the Macedonian, "Come over and help us," in prayer. If you are enabled to prevail in prayer, you will have many requests to offer for others that will flock to you, and beg a share in your intercessions. And so you will find yourselves commissioned with errands to the mercy seat for friends and hearers. Such is always my lot, and I feel it a pleasure to have such requests to present before my Lord. Never can you be short of themes for prayer, even if no one should suggest them to you. Look at your congregation. There are always sick folk among them, and many more who are soul sick. Some are unsaved, others are seeking and cannot find. Many are desponding, and not a few believers are backsliding or mourning. There are widows' tears and orphans' sighs to be put into our bottle and poured out before the Lord. If you are a genuine minister of God, you will stand as a priest before the Lord, spiritually wearing the ephod and the breastplate whereon you bear the names of the children of Israel, pleading for them within the veil. I have known brethren who have kept a list of persons for whom they felt bound especially to pray, and I doubt not such a record often reminded them of what might otherwise have slipped their memory. Nor will your people wholly engross you. The nation and the world will claim their share. The man who is mighty in prayer may be a wall of fire around his country, her guardian angel and her shield. We have all heard how the enemies of the Protestant cause dreaded the prayers of Knox more than they feared armies of 10,000 men. The famous Welsh was also a great intercessor for his country. He used to say he wondered how a Christian could lie in his bed all night and not rise to pray. When his wife, fearing that he would take cold, followed him into the room to which he had withdrawn, she heard him pleading in broken sentences, "Lord, wilt thou not grant me Scotland?" Oh, that we were thus wrestling at midnight, crying, "Lord, wilt thou not grant us our hearers' souls?"